participant screen sharing, Owen.
Can you Owen, just hover over his name and make him a co-host. That'll give him rights to share his screen. Not a host, a co-host. Yeah.
Co-host.
Yeah.
I'm just hovering over his screen. What should I be seeing?
Okay, so click down the bottom. You've got participants. Click on participants, and then look for his name on the right-hand side. Hover over the tab that says more, and you'll get drop down, and you can make him a co-host.
Yeah, I've got more here against Duncan. Yeah.
And then if you hover over that, you'll see a drop-down list, and you should be able to make him a co-host.
I've got not a co-host. I can make him a host.
No, don't make him a host, because if you make him a host, it goes. It'll stop the meeting.
No, I can only make him. There's nothing that says co-host.
Oh, okay.
No. Got chat, stop video, spotlight for everyone, make host, allow to record, rename, put in waiting room, or remove.
I like the last one best.
What, remove?
I notice, Owen, I notice we've got Rebecca in here.
We have. Hello, Rebecca.
Could Rebecca put herself on video, please, so we can see her?
Of course I can. If you just bear with me, I'll be able to do that.
Okay. Thank you, Rebecca. Rebecca, can you just bear with us a moment, because we've got two, you and Duncan are our, if you like, members of the public speakers before our meeting. But as you weren't there, we've started with Duncan. So would you mind if just bearing with us while we deal with Duncan, please? Is that okay?
Absolutely.
That's painful,
okay,
isn't it?
Okay. Fire away, Duncan, as best you can.
Okay, are we on screen share yet?
No.
Can't do anything with yours at all.
Owen, you've got the presentation, haven't you?
Oh, crikey, yeah, I can go back and find it somewhere, I expect. Okay.
If not, Duncan, if you email it over to Owen, he'll be able to pull it up.
I have emailed it to him earlier, actually.
Right, you did, actually, yeah, hold on.
I'll email it again if you want, Owen.
Sorry, hold on a minute. Let me just move you.
So there I am on blanket mute.
Sounds like Brian's approaching.
Hang on a second.
That's it. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes we can, Brian.
I can't see myself, but that doesn't matter.
We can't see you either.
Oh, that's good for you.
There should be a bottom.
Here we are. Done it.
On.
Is that it?
Yes.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
Okay, can you start without
I'll do
these
it.
papers?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Just bear with me a moment. My computer's having a funny moment. They are, just like me. Good evening, Chairman and members. It's been a while since I've been to one of your parish council meetings, but really I've just come along to give you an update in terms of what's happening with your affordable housing projects in. Oh, hello. There we go.
Hey.
Right. So, for those that you don't know me, I know most of you. as I say, I'm Duncan Harvey. I head up our housing development team, and I think since I last came to speak to you, I've also inherited the task of building new council houses as well. So sort of our section has grown slightly. My colleague Rebecca has joined us this evening. Rebecca is our new housing development assistant. Some of you may remember Harry Parsons. Rebecca is his replacement, and Rebecca is she's here because this is the sort of project you're getting involved with. So if we can go to the next page, Owen, that one, that's it. Next one up. So what you've got there in front of you at the moment is an image of the sort of very early stages of the orchard, which is the A38 site that you're all familiar with. And what you've then got is an aerial image of the scheme, not a million miles off from what it looks like today, really. So it's quite a stark sort of development that's gone out. Very attractive, but you can see the development that's gone ahead. If we may go to the next one, Owen, if that's okay. So just if we talk about the orchard site first, well, just to remind everybody, it's a development by Colne Residential to build 18 homes. And if you look on their website, not only are the properties, in my opinion, exceptionally attractive from the exterior, but their interior is of a top quality, and that's been replicated in the affordable housing. So there's been no compromise in terms of the quality of both the exterior or the interior of the affordable housing units. So anybody that's going to live in those affordable homes will be pleasantly surprised with the quality of what we're getting, to the point where we've got ensuite bathrooms, tiles in a lot of the rooms, and the quality of the finish is exemplar, really. So now I know some of the members may have been up to see the show home, but we will have the opportunity from next week, if members wanted to go and visit and look at the affordable homes. If you wanted to, we could arrange that for you. Rebecca's been round and had a look at them, and I think she'd agree we were very surprised with the quality and very pleased with the quality. So just in terms of what we're doing here, there's the 11 market homes, and there are 7 affordable homes, and there is a small financial contribution from the developer towards further affordable housing to bring the overall number up to, or the quantum of the affordable up to 40% of the scheme. What we will have done with that money, we will have recycled that into the scheme down at Brent Street or Station Road, whichever you care to label it as, because we have made a contribution down there. We're using a cross-subsidy model. So what that means to members that aren't familiar with that is it's a policy which allows market housing to be built outside the settlement boundary, and the developer is effectively having to generate 2 profits: one profit for himself or his financiers, whichever you choose to call it, or also the subsidy to cover the cost of building the affordable housing units. Because what we know is that the price that we are paying for those properties doesn't cover the build cost for the developer. So the developer has had to take a business risk to say, can I make a profit for themselves, for the bank, but also can I make a surplus to pay for the affordable housing units? In terms of the affordable homes, the 7 affordable homes will be owned and managed by Sedgemoor District Council, and managed by our Homes in Sedgemoor, which is our arm's length management organisation. And you might say, why are the council involved? Partly because the developer tried to engage with the housing association and was unable to do so, and crudely it came down to money, if I'm blunt about it. And in order to bring the site forward, they needed to be in contract with some affordable housing provider, and the council stepped in to pick those units up. Now that brings lots of positives in terms of local accountability. And I'm looking at Councillor Filmer as we speak. As an elected member, clearly as a local authority, we're far more accountable through our elected members. And of course, if you look at the performance figures of the Almo, then it's performing quite well when compared to other housing associations. So there's a couple of positives I would like to think members get out of it. I've put down the mix there. I think most people are familiar with a blend of bedroom, flats, houses, and bedroom sizes. There's a good blend across 7 units. If we can go to the next slide, please, Owen. Just really in terms of this year's been the most unusual year with COVID, and unlike most development sites, this site, bar a couple of weeks, carried on building through the COVID lockdown period, as far as I understand. That nevertheless, it still has affected delivery, and that's really been brought about by reduced labour, and by reduced labour it means that the developer couldn't have multiple trades working in the property at the same time. On a traditional scheme you might have 5 or 6 trades, you know, the painter, the plumber, the electrician all working in the property at the same time. That's not been possible through COVID, so that has built in a delay on most of the schemes we're dealing with elsewhere. It's around about a 6 months delay, so it's been quite significant in terms of delays. And there have been some issues around supply, getting some of the fixtures and fittings and all the internal stuff mainly from their suppliers simply because of the lockdown and COVID. We had expected the units to be completed by the end of July. That's clearly not happened. There have been some last minute issues, and I'm not going to go into those in any great detail, but they've been resolved, and handover will take place, we're hoping, next week. And that's where we're at to at the moment. So we're there effectively. If we can go to the next one, Owen, please. I apologise for the blurry image on the right-hand side. All that really is a copy of the local lettings plan that members agreed for Station Road, and we replicated that on this A38 site. So the same lettings plan applies to both sites for consistency's sake. And members will be familiar with that. Basically, the stronger your connection with the village or the parish, the higher up that priority list you are, effectively. So in terms of allocations, all 7 affordable homes are going to be allocated in accordance with the local lettings plan. The local lettings plan is in the section 106, which is a legally binding document. The properties were advertised in September through the Home Finder Somerset system, and that advert basically invited people to bid. And members will recall that the way the system works is people have to physically bid in order to express an interest. And as I've put at the bottom, if you don't bid, you don't get considered, whether you're on the list or not. Now, Becky particularly, went over and above the call of duty and emailed everybody that was on the waiting list or the Home Finder Somerset list who had claimed to have a connection with Brent Knoll, and said, these are coming up, please bid. And I know your local newsletter also carried an article broadly saying the same thing. Nevertheless, I would say there are some people who haven't bid. I have no idea why. It seems a very strange thing not to do if you're looking for an affordable home. If we can carry on to the next one, please, Owen. In terms of what we've had in terms of bids, what you can see there is we've got 7 units. We've had 441 separate bids for those 7 units, and you can see the breakdown there, and you can see the local bids. What you'll notice is if you look at the local bids, the figure of 20 is not a million miles off what your housing needs suggested when we started out this process from day one. What you'll also notice is we've had, with the exception of the 1-bed flats, we have had a number of bids on all the other properties that exceed the number of vacancies that are available from local people who fit the Brent Knoll description. Now, I don't know which ones fits category 1 and category 2 at the moment, but what is currently happening at the moment, Homes in Sedgemoor are currently assessing and crucially validating the bids. What that means is we want some evidence to prove that you've got the connection that you claim to have. At the moment, we're just simply, it's called matching, but we're having spoken to the allocations manager this afternoon. He's still wrestling with what to do with the 1-bed flat that we've only got one local bid for. And it may be that they might re-advertise that. And they haven't made a decision on the 4-bed yet. So they are making progress. But what that says to you is lots of local people have expressed an interest. These properties will go to local people, which is what we set out to do. But it gives you an idea of just what sort of demands out there when you look at 441 bids, most of whom don't have a connection, of course. But that's where we're at the moment. Next, can I have the next slide, please, Owen? This is the last image, really. So it's really a sort of just an image of what we've got there, and I'm sure most members will have seen it going up and may even have gone and had a look on the site. But I think the scheme is particularly attractive, and as I say, we're happy to facilitate a visit if members would like to go and look inside the properties. We would obviously have to be careful around social distancing and COVID regulations, but we could accommodate that. So what I would suggest is anybody that wishes to have a look at inside the affordable properties, and I really would encourage you to take that offer up. They are simply stunning. If you could talk to Rebecca Wood, who's on tonight's meeting, Owen's got her contact details. Rebecca could coordinate when that could take place, and that's an offer there for you. So that's the orchard. This is obviously the site that the parish council have championed and have been heading up for a number of years now, and I'm sure most of you can remember the day that the turf cutting took place. I wasn't there, I was doing something else, but this sticks in my memory because Andrew Gilling has the biggest smile I've ever seen from Andrew Gilling. but I think what that image says to me is the work that the parish council put in. You were the key drivers to that project, and most of the members tonight were party to those discussions. If we can go to the next page, next one, please, Owen. So obviously it's called Baker's Field or Station Road or Brent Road, whichever you want to call it. The scheme is being built out by Willow Tree Housing Partnership. Now, members may be more familiar with their previous name, which was Southwest Housing Society. They are still based in Rooksbridge. They have just carried out a strategic partnership with Tamar Housing Association out of Plymouth, which is, I don't understand why they've buddied up with Tamar, but there you go. Unlike the previous scheme where it was being built out by a private developer, this scheme is being built out in its entirety by Willow Tree, the housing association. So this is the first time that Willow Tree have plunged into the murky world of commercial housing. So you'll recall when I spoke about the previous scheme, the orchard scheme, Willow Tree still have to make a profit to subsidise the affordable housing, but they've also got to not make a loss for their board, because if they do, then they will lose money on this scheme. So they've taken a huge risk, despite the threat of the COVID and the recession and everything else. And still further, what you've noticed is on this scheme, there are only 6 market housing units and there are 9 affordable units. So we've got 60% affordable housing on the scheme, which is significantly over the minimum policy requirement that we've seen up at the orchard. What that also means, of course, is there are fewer market unit homes to subsidise the market, to subsidise the affordables. So we are using a mix and match approach here. So we are using a cross subsidy model for 6 of the affordable housing units. And Willow Tree and the local Sedgemoor have put public money into the other 3, so the non-Section 106 or the non-cross subsidy units. So we've put some money in to increase the number, and Willow Tree have secured additional funds from the government. And again, you can see the breakdown. There's again a very good mix of units there, and there are a couple of shared ownership units there. Obviously, my concern about why didn't local people bid for the one beds is something we need to get our heads around, because as you'll note from the schedule there are a couple of one bed flats for rent that we need to make sure that local people are geared up to bid for. If we may go to the next one, please, Owen. This is just an image. Just to remind members about the layout, and obviously the nice publicity stuff that Willow Tree and everybody's put out. The one thing I did notice on visiting the site recently, and I hope the members would support me on this, is the current signage. It really isn't very good in terms of promoting the work of the parish council and others in the project. It's not very apparent just how much work and has gone into this scheme by people like yourself. And if members feel that the signage needs to be improved, I'm certainly going to be making the point from our point of view, but I'm happy to raise the members' point of view as well. It needs to shout a bit louder than it does, in my opinion. If we go to the next page, what I didn't see on the previous one was, again, there's been delays on this one, entirely down to COVID and what have you. And the delivery date for this scheme has now been pushed back to somewhere around about early summer next year. All this really is I just really wanted to assure members about how Carter's, the contractor, is dealing with the site, because and I don't make any apologies for the fact that I've put that little quip in there saying you can't make an omelette without breaking a few eggs. What we know about Carter's they've got considerate constructors accreditation, which means they've met a whole raft of criteria about how they build schemes and how they manage those schemes and how they minimize the impact on the community. All that audit in front of you is a snapshot in time, a very recent one, which basically tells you, in terms of how they're managing all the issues on site, there are no issues of concern to that auditor, an independent auditor. So you can't get any higher than satisfactory, which kind of feels a little bit underwhelming. But what it says to me is they're managing the scheme pretty well, and I can take comfort from how they manage difficult sites because of the way they managed things like the Moorlands Industrial Estate in Highbridge, where it's surrounded by houses, and we've even had neighbours tell us actually it wasn't the nightmare I thought it was going to be. In fact, it was that we hardly knew they were there most of the time. Obviously, members will be aware that the most recent activity has been the piling of the site. And I know there was some confusion about whether there was going to be piling or not, but piling it had to take place. The neighbours who live close to the site were offered the opportunity of a pre-piling survey because there were feelings that properties could get damaged. Some people took them up, not everybody, and I am not aware of any reported complaints as a result of that piling. Now, members may well be, but it's certainly not been reported to us, and it's certainly not been reported to the contractor or the housing association. And what I have put down the bottom there is the site manager's telephone number is clearly displayed on the site hoarding. And really, I think we need to make sure that if there are issues, that people are reporting them to Keith Smith in the first instance, because what we know about Carter's are that if there are issues, they will go and try and deal with them without them getting out of hand. What we're trying to do, and I'm not suggesting people can't come to the parish council or can't come to us as a council, but talking to Keith, if there are issues of concern, that will invariably sort it out at source with little fuss. And again, we had these concerns over at Mark, where they were building, same company, and after a while, the people's concerns about construction activity sort of died down after a while. And they were a lot more facetious, and ferocious about concerns over there. If we can go to the next slide, please, Owen. This is the allocation policy, and again, it's the same policy that you helped draft. All the rented homes are going to be are allocated in accordance with the local lettings plan. The local letting plan again is enshrined in the 106. I think the point, and I think this is a point which might be a bone of contention, but I think technically the shared ownership units are not part of the 106, and there is a reason for that. And the reason for that is if we put them in the 106, one, they'd be over the 40%, which is not really a problem. But secondly, it would have prevented us putting public grant in and making the scheme viable. So that's really why they're outside the 106. But nevertheless, as I said, Willow Tree are aiming to allocate these in the spirit of the 106. So they're not looking to allocate it to anybody. They are looking to allocate the shared ownership to people with those local connection criteria. And again, to reiterate what I said earlier, these properties will be advertised on the Home Finder Somerset system. We will contact all the local people to make sure they're aware it's being advertised. And we do need to get the message out saying, if you don't bid, you will not be considered. And there's no point coming back to us or to yourselves saying, I didn't get a property if you don't bid. And that's a very stark message, but it's one that needs to get out there. And if we go to the final thing, okay, just a before and during, and we have got some other pictures with the piles now, but there's not a lot of difference. And of course, I think it's always good to remind ourselves that this is a community driven project led by the parish council, and we're confident we're going to deliver exactly what you set out to achieve. I think that's me done. I think that's the last slide, I think, Owen, isn't it?
It is.
It is. So I'm happy to answer questions. Chairman, if you feel you or any of the members have any.
I'll just start off with one question, which somebody asked me about today. There's still if you like, a sliver of land which is left there opposite the cider farm,
yes.
Which has, if that were to be released, I think it would make, and the hedging removed, it would open that place up and make it part of the village rather than being shielded by lots of hedging and trees. What's the position on that, Duncan?
I mean, if it's available, I'm sure the Housing Association would be interested but of course, when we started the project, it wasn't available because the landowner wasn't interested in entertaining a discussion over it. Now, if it is now available at a realistic price, and I think we need to emphasize that as well, then I'm sure the Housing Association would look at it, because the one thing that you get with Willow Tree or Southwest Housing Society is a commitment to want to embed themselves in the village. And I think, you know, them controlling that parcel of land would certainly enhance the development and enhance that corner of the where the road is. So if you're happy, I can speak to Willow Tree, and I presume it's owned by the chap who owns the farm, is it?
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, Bob. It's the person that owned the original land that was sold, or is it someone entirely different?
It's owned by the Harris family at Westcroft.
John Harris.
Oh, yeah.
So if and Mr. Harris made it quite clear on his views, but if it's available, of course we'll look at it, Chairman. And but until we can make inquiries, but I suspect I know what the answer is going to be, but yeah. I'll happily make some inquiries.
Okay, it was someone just I think someone was misinformed as to who the owners were, to be honest with you, and perhaps that's why it hasn't become available. But okay, at least I've asked the question anyway. Are there any other questions from anyone? Perhaps you could signify on participants if you want to speak at all. Any other questions?
Yes.
Brian's got something to say.
Brian?
Yeah. Over the years, there have always cropped up questions about the possibilities of flooding And I don't like bringing it up again, but I presume all these things, all this flooding situation has been resolved satisfactorily.
Yeah, just to be clear, some of the, I mean, obviously the flood issues were part of the planning consultation exercise. The flood authority gave their views. They told the association or the developer what they had to do to overcome any of the potential flooding issues. So some of the things, some of the water issues around there didn't necessarily relate to the land itself. It related to the water courses and some issues around the sewers and what have you. And what you may have noticed is where the entrance is at the moment, there are a couple of new sewers or drains there that are designed to take more water away. There's been some work done on some of the sewers there already, and there's been some other alleviation works done. So those units are designed for the 1 in 100-year flood, and they've taken that into account.
Thank you.
Is that okay, Brian?
Yep, thank you.
Any other questions of Duncan?
Yeah, Colin, Chairman, it's a comment more than a question. Just to say to Duncan, thank you. That was a really good presentation, very informative and very helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome, Nigel.
Yeah, thank you, Duncan. Nice to meet Rebecca as well. And thank you for coming to meet us, Rebecca. But no, it's all gone exceedingly well so far. So, congratulations, Duncan, really.
No, I think congratulations to members as well, because a lot of you will remember it was you had a tough time, a lot of tough calls, and you stuck in there. And so when we're talking about congratulations, members should be patting themselves on the back as well, because I think you've done, without your support, we wouldn't have got Station Road away. No two ways about it. So before I leave, a couple of things. One, if you want to go and see the insides of the properties, talk to Rebecca, or Owen can coordinate that and we can facilitate something. Secondly, you know, at the end of the day, if you do hear grumbles, ask the people if they've spoken to Keith first. And if they haven't, talk to Keith. If there's still a problem, get back to us and we will pick it up and run with it.
Okay. Thank you, Duncan.
Brilliant. Well, we'll leave you in peace, members. And it's lovely to see everybody again, and take care of yourselves.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Rebecca.
Bye.
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 Take
Bye.
care. Bye.
Bye, Rebecca.
Bye.
Bye, Rebecca.
Bye.
Okay. Owen, we did have someone else that wanted to speak to us. Have they beamed in at all?
I'm afraid they've rather shot out with the confusion, I think.
Okay, okay.
Although they were talking about 152 Brent Street. I think that was the planning application they wished to refer to.
Okay.
And I think they were the applicant. So clearly they were in favour, not an objector, as it were.
Okay. Right, let's crack on then. Welcome everybody to our October meeting. Apologies, please, Owen.
I've got John Harper gave me apologies this afternoon, and Cynthia, because again she's been trying to get in on the telephone system, I think. Unfortunately, she's also now effectively apologising for her, and Warwick, I believe, is sent his apologies as well.
Okay. Yeah. Are you all favouring accepting those apologies? Can you signify, please? That's lovely. Thank you. Declarations of pecuniary interest, personal prejudicial matters. Bob, usual?
Yeah, thank you. The usual planning, and also if there's any debate about the parish hall one.
Okay.
And could I just mention that Andrew Gilling sends his apologies as well, please?
Okay, thank you, Bob. Thank you. Okay, you've had the minutes for the 2nd of September and 16th. Are you all happy that at the appropriate time I sign them as a true record of the meeting? Yep. Thank you. Planning, Andrea.
Bob is going to leave us, I guess.
Oh, sorry. Can you blank Bob?
Just,
yeah. Andrea, you're on mute. Andrea.
I can hear you.
Yeah.
Well, I've got a parrot that was like in Duncan's voice, so he was really kicking off.
Yeah. Well, I thought I was a parrot, but I'm all right now. I thought I was a parrot, but I'm all right now. Yeah.
Okay, so planning applications, we have 2. So 072019, the erection of a mobile building on the site of the existing Elliott building, which is going to be demolished at the Brent Knoll Church of England Primary School. So a lot of information has been put online, and basically there are photographs to show that the building has numerous problems because of age. It's got cracked cladding, it's got rotting timber skirt, the door frame is rotting, they've got vegetation that's actually going into the building, the roof cover is degraded, and they have condemned the gas convector heater, so they have to have a portable electric convector heater, which must be absolutely eating the electricity to keep it warm. We all know that the school is full, so therefore this is a room that is used to teach children on a daily basis. What they are proposing is to put another mobile building in its place to actually make it more user-friendly and more up-to-date and more warm and conducive to the children's education. So I've looked online and Nigel checked today as well. Nobody has made any comments. There's nothing adverse to say that there's a problem there. Because it's replacing a building, then the site has already been used. So therefore, I open it up to the councillors for discussion about what their views are to the proposal.
Thank you, Andrea. You've all had the opportunity to look at this online. Are there any proposals or further questions? Okay, Andrea, I think this is a sort of foregone conclusion, really, because it's increasing the facilities of the school. Do you have a recommendation for the council?
Yeah, I would like to support this, actually. The village school is a massive part of our village life. It is a popular school, and I would like to think that our children are in a warm environment that's not leaking and it's not rotting, and it enhances the education, you know, of our children and grandchildren. So I would like to support this.
Do I have a seconder for that? Andrew? All those in favour that we support the application on the grounds of really building improvements for the school?
Definitely.
That's carried unanimously by the look of it. Thank you. Okay, 0720 0020, single story extension.
Okay, so we know that the owner of the property was going to make a presentation. So with that, I don't know if anybody was able to hear in the first meeting, but I will put this forward for 072020, an erection of a single story extension to the rear, the northeast elevation of 152 Brent Street. Now this is a property which is towards the end of the village. At present, they've actually got a conservatory there, and the conservatory, I'll just show you some photographs, has actually become quite old, and it's not, there's the proposal, there's the site. So it's in the same place, and what they're actually wanting to do is to take the old conservatory down and replace it with a new conservatory. There is statements from, oh, sorry, that's the wrong one. There's statements from the owner of the house saying that it would be an improvement to the building. It is a well-used room, and it would be something that they would like to do to improve the property. So again, I would like to open that up to the other councillors for a discussion and to see what other people's thoughts are.
Thanks, Andrea. Any comments from anybody else regarding it? No? Andrea, what's your feeling on this? It seems that it's merely a replacement of an existing. It's modernising or updating a building for the benefit of the residents, and that we should support it.
And it is, you know, by looking at the proposal, you know, it is in keeping. It is a nice replacement from an old conservatory. And yes, I'd like to support it because I definitely believe that it's an improvement on the building.
Okay, so the proposal is that we support this on the grounds that it's property improvements. Can I have a seconder for that, please? Brian, all those in favour? Yes. Thank you. Carried unanimously. Well done. Thank you. Can you bring Bob back in, please, yes. Owen?
I've requested his attendance. Here he is.
Okay, Bob, report from you, please.
Okay, couple of things from the county. Just the normal sort of update on the coronavirus stuff to start with. As of the end of September, the R value in Somerset is between 1.1 and 1.4, which is obviously higher than last month, but is still lower than a lot of the other areas in the country. And if any of you saw the news yesterday, I think it was on Points West, the Sedgemoor area at the moment is one of the joint lowest number of cases per 100,000 in the southwest. Also at the moment, in terms of fatalities, this year the number of deaths that have taken place are actually about 6% below the 5-year average. So it's not as serious a problem in this area of the country at the moment, but obviously it's something we need to be vigilant on and make sure it doesn't let rip. The return to school has obviously taken place in the last month, and at the moment, over 90% of kids are in school. The attendance record is over 90% for all the schools across Somerset. So that's positive. Obviously, there are a lot of restrictions on the schools in terms of keeping the kids and the teachers safe. And also the sort of maintaining the social distancing and bubbles and stuff. So that's being done in such a way to try and avoid any big outbreaks. In terms of the county's finances, you'll remember a couple of years ago, I reported that we'd had what was called an adverse report on our audit. Obviously, like the parish council, we have to have an independent audit each year. And in effect, 2 years ago, they were saying they weren't convinced that the finances of the county were in a robust state. This year, they've actually given a unqualified response, which basically means they are happy with the accounts. And they commented from the auditors that to turn it around in 2 years was impressive. But obviously, they want to keep a close eye and make sure we keep heading in the right direction and don't slip back. Obviously, one of the big issues we had was lack of reserves a couple of years ago. Heading into COVID, those reserves may well get tested. Because obviously we don't know what impact there's going to be on council income in terms of business rates, council tax payments and such. So that's something that's going to be watched over closely in the next 12 to 18 months. Just a reminder on the Climate Emergency Fund. You remember the county set up £1 million fund that organisations can bid for through the parish council. You can go for grants between 50 and 75 grand, basically for environmental projects that will help carbon reduction and helping to reduce the sort of impact on the global climate. So I can pass to Owen the contact details for that, but it's basically through the somerset.gov.uk website. But in effect, the parish council act as gateway for potentially other organisations if they want to approach us. One Somerset, the unitary, I think you've all been copied by Owen the details of the 4 meetings that have been set up by David Fothergill, basically to give people the opportunity to come on, have a presentation from him on the One Somerset plan, and to ask any questions that members may have of him. I think that probably covers it from county. A couple of things to mention on the Sedgemoor front. I believe you had tonight an email from Duncan McGinty on the unitary from the Stronger Somerset camp. And that obviously, again, they're saying they will be coming around in due course to have conversations with the parishes about their views on how that could work. And in terms of almost hot off the press, we had a full council meeting today at Sedgemoor where we've agreed to go ahead with the Northgate project, which is basically redeveloping the site that was formerly the Splash site. It's going to be a seven screen cinema complex run by the Scott family, who run the existing cinema in Bridgewater, which is in the old sort of Art Deco building. There will also be an All Stars bar and Tenpin bowling alley and a series of restaurants. Now, Sedgemoor's gone ahead and pressed the button today, going ahead with the project. It's going to be about £15 million project to build out. The cinema lease is sorted, as is the Tenpin bowling and the All Stars bars. As yet, the restaurants aren't allocated down on the ground floor, but they will be being allocated to look for this project to actually come online and be open to the public by the summer of 2022. So it's a big investment in the middle of Bridgewater. It's a regeneration plan to help redo the centre of Bridgewater, but also obviously it's there to try and capture some of the money that currently leaves the Sedgemoor area when people want to go Tenpin bowling. They've got to toddle off to Taunton or to Weston, and it's been a call for a number of years to have something like that in the centre of Bridgewater, and this way it's managing to facilitate that. So hopefully, big project, but it should be an exciting one. Happy to take any questions.
From me first, please. I've registered to listen to Fothergill tomorrow night. I'm a bit concerned as to, it seems there's a lot of friction between One Somerset and Stronger Somerset. And it seems that what concerns me is who is going to make the decision at the end of the day. It seems that it's going to come down to a much higher body to make that decision. And what strikes me about these people infighting, for want of a better word, is that this is a matter, just a moment in time, with particular people and caliber of people. And I just wonder what you felt about, from your own point of view, Bob, about whether we go unitary or whether we go two separate areas which are being proposed.
Yeah, I think it would be fair to say that there is quite a lot of friction at the moment between the two sides. I mean, basically, if you go back a couple of years, county and districts were working together to see how they could improve local government in Somerset. They had a joint report, but when the joint report came to its options, in effect, the districts and the county took the two different lines. One was going for closer working together. County went for the single unitary. The government have made it pretty clear that they want unitary, so they don't want a two-tier anymore. They want to have one council that's accountable. And so in effect, the argument now is the size of that council. Either it's a one council for the whole of Somerset, or in our case, it would be one council for us and Taunton and a separate council dealing with Mendip and South Somerset. In terms of, as I say, there is friction at the moment. The decision will ultimately be made by the government. The Secretary of State will decide. He'll obviously take into account the business plans that have been put forward, but also the feedback he gets from the area as to what people's general views are as to which way they would like to see it go. And I think it would be fair to say that once he makes that decision, there will be about a year of transition from that point to the inauguration of whatever the new council setup is. And at that point, I think all the councils will come back together, because in effect it will be the same staff who will be doing it broadly, whichever way we go. So it'll either be a question of a lot of district current staff will be moving to a bigger authority based on a one unitary, or potentially it will be county staff moving to other organisations to run things that they're currently doing. So I think at that point there will be a coming together of the two halves to actually make whatever it is they've been given to do, to actually have to physically make it work. But until the decision is made, I think it is going to get more fractious before it finishes.
Well, what? Oh, sorry, Andy. Go on. Yeah.
Bob, the reason for anybody to do this is quite simple. It's a cost-cutting exercise under the guise of efficiency, because the theory is. So there is going to be friction, isn't there? Because the councils are actually fighting for their jobs as well as what they believe.
There's an element of that. I mean, I think the view is that, yes, it is an element of cost saving. The government's had a leaning towards unitaries for some time, because they've been saying for a number of years that the old system that we currently have of the two-tier district and county is complicated, people don't understand it, and therefore there's confusion, and it wouldn't be much simpler just to have one place that you go to. So there's a sort of a principle that the government has wanted to get to in terms of unitary, and I think that's where both sides have got to, saying, yes, we will have one council, so you'll have one point of contact in effect. But then it comes down to the argument between the county's view is the single unitary will make bigger cost savings because you've got more economies of scale. The alternative view from the districts is you may well do that, but you'll lose local accountability, and I think the district's feeling is that they are more nimble on their feet, that they can react to things better sometimes than the county can, and that by having the two, they can try and get the best of both worlds rather than putting all their eggs in one basket and going for the one big one. I think what part of the concern also is that unitaries, most of the unitaries at the moment are urban. There are more rural ones starting to be formed. I think the concern is when you've got a really big rural area like a Somerset, you're geographically covering a very large area, and there are differences between sort of Minehead and Yeovil that are quite substantial.
Brian, did you want? Yeah, Brian.
Yes, please. In your report, you mentioned that there will probably be quite a big expense about COVID, right? And it seems to me crazy that these people are expending all their energies on these, arguing about these authorities, when we know that we're pretty sure we know there's going to be huge expense to make up for what happened with COVID, and things are not getting any better, are they?
No, I think
wonder why they should be doing this.
I think, to be honest, the timetable of this.
Couldn't they postpone it, for instance?
They possibly could. I mean, at the moment, the feedback we're getting from the government is that they've postponed some around the country, which were less far forward than Somerset, and I think Cumbria are carrying on as well, and there's one other. Ultimately, their view is that they think that if you go for this reorganisation, it will be more efficient and cost effective, and therefore you will have extra money that you can spend. So they're keen to carry on to see that move forward in some of the areas where they've started. I think it would be fair to say, if we had been 6 months earlier with something like COVID happening, we probably wouldn't be proceeding with this now. But it's almost got to that sort of stage where everyone has moved themselves so far down the track that it's now both have submitted their plans to the Secretary of State, and it's sort of sitting with him now to see where we go from here. The government could pull the plug on it. We don't know.
We don't want to be in a position where you're scraping for money again, like we were 2 or 3 years ago. And I think it's crazy myself. And I'm not convinced about the cost cutting either from what I've known of previous changes. But that's just a personal opinion.
Okay. David, does Malcolm have anything to ask? No, by the sound of it. Okay. No more questions then. Let's move on. Thank you for that, Bob. Footpaths. I don't think we've got anybody from Footpaths, have we? No?
No, Cynthia is not here. And
okay.
I haven't had any reports of any footpath issue.
Brian?
Sorry. On footpaths, if you go down the Bodies Lane and then turn right and go to the first stile by the side of the Reen, the wooden post supporting the gate is very insecure, very wobbly. It needs shoring up. I don't know if you've noticed that before. It's the stile which is almost straight opposite the back of my house. To give you an idea where it is. Yeah, down Bodies Lane, turn right, keep going to the first gate. And it's really very bad, very wobbly. And it's also a great big, deep step really for old people like me to get over.
David,
that's the one we're doing, isn't it? That's the footpath we're doing. But I don't know about the gate post, but I will go down and have a look at it.
Yeah, it's quite wobbly.
But the step is going to be levelled out with that's all good. In hand.
Good. Thanks, David. Anything else on footpaths? No? Okay. Highways. Has Malcolm got anything on highways for us?
Only one. We started putting lights on the roadworks, the gas company, and now there's no lights at all on them.
Is that going up Manor Ride?
Yes.
Yeah, because it's quite bad up there, isn't it? It's a proper sort of snake of a road now they've made.
Like a chicane.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm quite sure. And then they haven't been there for a couple of weeks now.
Okay.
I'll follow that up.
They usually
is that
go about 4 o'clock, maybe.
Okay. Owen will follow that up then.
Right, okay.
Thank you. Bob?
Yeah, can I raise a couple of things? One was to do with Wick Lane. I don't know whether members had heard there was a lorry ended up in the Reen in Wick Lane in the last couple of days. Unfortunately, there was a bit of a mess up with some roadworks. They're currently doing, we have the palisade fencing that was done on our railway bridge on Station Road. They're doing the same thing down on the Breen Road at the moment. And basically the rail track had decided to send all the traffic along Wick Lane that they were diverting. Apparently, from what I found out this week, County went back to them at the end of last week and said, before you start your roadworks, we're not happy with that route. We want it rerouted. And they agreed an alternative route. But unfortunately, when the guys came out on Monday and started their roadworks, they put the signs down on the old route, not on the new route. So they were sending all the traffic from Breen Road down Wick Lane, which of course is pretty narrow. There was a lot of queuing traffic because the cars couldn't pass the various caravans and lorries, and in the end, one of the lorries ended up in the Reen. So we have followed it up. County have got it sorted as of yesterday. But just in case you hear through the grapevine, it wasn't a planned route. County hadn't approved it. It was an error that ended up with the traffic down there, which has now been sorted. On a similar vein, I've had some complaints from residents in Burton Row because there's currently roadworks being done in Burnham on the Barrow Road, which means at night a lot of the traffic is being sent round the sort of East Brent Burton Row route round to Burnham. there's been quite a lot of what I believe are Towans lorries going late at night, and it's caused quite a lot of disturbance down Burton Road, particularly because there are 1 or 2 areas where the road surface is not good, and there's been vibrations through houses. So that has been reported to Highways. The residents have asked if we could put on our next agenda to talk about potentially putting a weight restriction on Burton Row, and I wonder if Owen could maybe add that to the November meeting. Yeah. On the positive front, Brent Street, we discussed the terrible surface near the hairdressers. I've been told that County have now put in the budget for next financial year for that area to be resurfaced. So that is now on the agenda to be redone. And I think that's all. The only other thing I was going to ask was whether Owen had been in touch with the gas people about replacing the posts near the gas box, because they obviously damaged a number of them when they were doing the work.
Yeah, I have. I had a contact with the gas, and I was told that an investigation would be put in place, and they'd come back to us. I haven't heard anything yet.
Thank you, Owen. Thanks, Bob. Thank you. Anything else on highways? Okay.
Yeah, I want to.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, David.
No, that's all right. On the railway bridge that they put the new fence on Ham Road, the existing fence either side of it, some of it's missing, where various cars have disappeared down the bank into Dirt Driver and into the pond once upon a time. There's no fence at all. So there's their new bits, and then there's nothing. So I wondered if we could follow that up with highways, because I would say Network Rail only account for the palisade fencing they've done. I would say their responsibility would end after that, but I'm not sure. I don't know if we could find out, because it's not very good.
It took Rail Track 3 years to do that, actually.
Yeah.
To do what they've done. Okay, I'll follow that up, though.
Yeah, that's all right. Thank you.
Thanks, David. Anything else on highways? Okay, let's move on. Who did the village green this month?
I think it was Andrew. Yeah, according to the rota.
No, you did it last month, didn't you?
Yeah, no, it was.
I've got Andrew down the rota for September.
I did all.
And Bob for October.
I know on the last one, I overlapped with Andy doing his, and he reported out last month, and I said that I would. I think the discussion was that we do it sort of like not just once a month, but we try and sort of like do more than sort of like once a month, maybe once a week. Really, yeah. I can give a report with regards to the toilets. I didn't find any issues in there. At the time that I did it, I walked to the telephone kiosk. No issues there. It was all looking clean and empty. I didn't get to walk around the park, so I couldn't check with regards to the bench that had the protruding screw and the broken slat, whether or not that had been repaired or not. No. But there were no other issues that I observed.
Okay. Do you want me to resend the road? Will the rest of us send the rota out again, so everybody knows what?
Yeah.
Because I know I sent it out in July, but I think sometimes it's just worth reminding and redoing it.
Yeah. Just on that, because I've replaced the councillor. I think on one of the rotas I don't appear at all, so I don't mind taking my slot on that.
You're certainly on the new one I've got, which is...
there you go. Didn't last long.
Okay, I'll resend that. Resend rota.
Thank you, Owen. Thank you. And thanks, Nigel, for that. Bob?
Could we just check, bearing in mind the hours coming up to change and the darkness, can we check what time the timers are set to in the loo for the lights to come on? Because this time of year we should be changing it again.
Yeah.
I don't know who does the timer. Who looks after the timer?
I mean, Peter used to do it, but
Brian has sometimes.
Are you okay to do? Are you okay to check it out, Brian?
Me?
Yes.
I'm no technical wizard. I will have a look, but
I don't mind if not.
What's the key for getting in? Do we know?
Well, that was the question I was going to ask.
Yeah, we
probably
ought to send that by email.
Don't mention it on here.
Don't. We'll message it to you, Brian.
Yeah. Don't mention the combination.
High security. Can you actually get in there, David, at the moment?
Yeah, you can get in and you can get at everything.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Brilliant. Okay. So you'll have a look at that, Brian.
Yes, I will do. Yeah.
Thank you.
Need any
Thank
help,
you very much.
Somebody send me the secret.
Yeah, we'll send you the secret. Yeah, the Da Vinci Code.
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, just a point there, because I had an email from the guy who does the toilet cleaning, and he asked if he could get access to the back room. It was just a couple of days ago, and I did say I'd find out what the code is so he can get in there.
For what reason, Owen?
I think he's got to get in there for some cleaning.
Yes, there's some cleaning fluid in there which we bought, which they have access to dilute to clean the loos, Nigel.
Fine.
Yeah.
It's also worth pointing out, I think, Bob, that we had a complimentary email from someone, didn't we, about the pleasant state of our toilets in Brent Knoll.
Wow.
Very convenient.
We're flushed with success, as they say. Yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah. Okay. GB Sports.
I don't think you've had the September one, have you? Because I don't think I've received the September one. I will make sure GB send me that, and I'll forward it on.
Okay. Okay.
I don't think there'll be anything any different on it, but we ought to have it.
Okay. Moving on then, is there anything on police crime speed watch SID updates, pre-circulated crime report?
No, I haven't had any of that. The SID update, of course, do you want to just talk about what we're doing about the legal side of that?
Yes, if you like. Yeah.
We are progressing on the legal side with Sedgemoor to recover our funds. The initial letter that went out met with a fairly negative response, as we were expecting. It is now planned to follow that up with a number 2 letter, so to speak, and get it, get more intensity in the demands for a refund. So we're on the case, but it all takes a lot of time. So we're carrying on pressing for our money back, basically.
Yeah, we sent if you like, a pre-action letter, which you have to send before you start proceedings. And essentially we got no response. Well, we got a negative response. So we just instructed Nigel at SCD to issue proceedings. So that's in theory what he should be doing, so that we can thrash it out. But the response was, well, it's not correctly mounted on the pole, but he still doesn't get the fact that it doesn't work. So we're going to have to face it down. But Bob has very kindly given us details of a highly recommended SID unit, which I'll follow up and present to you. Yeah, and Owen talked to me yesterday about East Brent, who are having problems with actually people willing to move their SID around. So it might well be that we could use their radar looks and work together with them to move it and just concentrate it on Burton Row in particular, which would help us and it would help them. So I think that's also a discussion we need to have.
Apparently they took a decision in their Monday meeting to actually remove the SID completely because of manpower issues. So if we could link in some way with them, I guess that could solve both problems, really.
It would solve an interim problem for us anyway. We'll report back on both East Brent, and perhaps, Owen, you could make a note on East Brent and our own SID so that we give a regular update on where we are.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, correspondence, a scanned copy of a letter from a resident in Station Road.
Which you've obviously seen, without mentioning names on here, but you've seen the letter. I think it's largely been dealt with, been superseded by events, I would say.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move on to finance then. Do you want to take that one, Owen, please?
Basically, the statutory payments obviously are unchanged, but there are 5 additional payments. The Jubilee Room, believe it or not, we haven't actually paid a bill since last September because we haven't been invoiced. But we've now got an invoice for the period between October and March of this year. In other words, just before lockdown, of £253.50. I've checked it out and it all corresponds with meetings that took place, so it is correct. Decision Power is the website upgrade and the compliance issues that Dave obviously put into place for us. 825. It's not cheap, but a very big job apparently, so I'm told by other clerks. It is a very big job to do. So, you know, I was a little bit shocked when he gave us the price, but I think I'm told that it is normal, you know, the normal amount of work involved. The green perimeter fencing, 5,280, including VAT. And that looks fantastic, I think, doesn't it? That green,
very good.
Really completed. PFK Little John is our audit fee for this year. Audit's now completed, fully compliant, £240. And the office expenses for July to September quarter, which is obviously reduced because there is no mileage charge on there, and costs have generally been a bit lower. So it's half of last year.
Brian.
The upgrading of the website, how often does that happen? Or should it happen? Do we know?
Well, the compliance
it's not annually, is it?
Is it's a one-off.
Oh, right.
He's obviously done it.
Yeah.
And obviously he's now made it accessible.
Right.
As far as upgrading is concerned, I suppose that's an ongoing thing.
Yeah,
Thank
you anyway.
Certainly the type script looks better now, it looks much clearer.
Yes. Could I make a proposal, please, that the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 payments that have just been outlined by Owen, that they are paid, please, with, if you like, immediate effect. All those in favour, or a seconder, Andrea, all those in favour? Thank you. Okay.
We've got some additional items here on finance, which won't take very long, actually, I don't think. As you know, I'm now studying for Silka, and I'm now cracking on with it really rather well, actually, even though I say it myself. But I'm having some training. We're all having training with SALP. So we're doing Zoom training, 6-hour sessions over 4 months. I've done the first one and the second one comes up next week. For that Silka training, SALP charged £275, which won't be payable probably until the new year. But I just need to get agreement that the council are happy to pay that fee.
I'm happy. Shall we take each of these in turn or all of them? Okay. Can I propose then that we pay, please, the Silka training fee of £275 as and when it becomes due? Andrea's seconded. All those in favour? That's great. Thank you. Next one.
Scribe financial software. Well, through the summer, I've been testing the Scribe system. That is by far and away the best. We discussed it at our audit meeting a few weeks ago. It clearly is the right thing for us to do. And I would propose that we start it from the next financial year in April. So therefore, we would need to set it up really end of this year, beginning of next. And that's a cost of £283 per year for the license for the Scribe software. Obviously moves us on considerably from spreadsheets, gives us a lot more flexibility and actually gives us a lot more detail, which we're not able to get at the moment from spreadsheets. Our auditors have recommended it anyway. So,
yeah, the audit group have looked at it, and we'd like to propose Andrea, John, myself, and Owen but we'd like to propose that we accept these costs for the Scribe financial software. That's our proposal. Is there a seconder, please? Nigel, all those in favour? Thank you. Well done. Okay, next one.
Financial regulations rewrite. We haven't reviewed them since 2015. Particularly now we've gone on to internet banking. They were out of date. And there's some other things. I sent the 19-page document to you, and I'm sure you read every word of it in great detail.
Twice.
But anyway, the fact is that that's the document now that I'm proposing that we adopt as our financial regulations for 2020. And they are a requirement. We have to adopt a new set, effectively. So I just need to propose a seconder and a vote on it, please.
Yeah, the audit committee have looked at this with Owen, and again, we'd like to propose, Andrea, John and myself propose that it is accepted. Can I have a seconder, please? David, all those in favour? Thank you. Okay, Owen.
National Salary Agreement. Now the governing body for councils in the country, for particularly for clerks, have agreed on a general cost of living pay increment, which they have recommended from April of this year, which represents about 200 and something pounds a year, 229, I think, to be precise. Which is, they recommend it to be back. In fact, there's been quite a bit of controversy on this. I'm on a Facebook page for clerks. There's been quite a lot of controversy on this because some parishes, I'll be honest with you, some parishes have not wanted to adopt it, and others have. And of course, there's been pointed out by various people, including SLCC and SALC, we have no option really if we want to abide by NOUT regulations on salary structures. So I think from our point of view as a council, the one thing that is important is that we do have a scale which represents the right level for any future clerk coming in. Because obviously I'm not going to be here forever. Sigh of relief, I hear one or two people say. So therefore it needs to reflect the general levels of salaries. So I just need really your okay to move us forward with that NOUT increase.
Yeah, so the proposal of the audit committee is to increase the salary by £224 per annum, which will be backdated to April 2020. Can I have a seconder for that proposal, please? Nigel, all those in favour? That's carried. Lovely, thank you.
Additional banking internet second signatory. Bob and Colin at the moment authorise the payments that I set up. I'm slightly concerned that we need another person because should Bob or Colin not be able to do it, we would be stuck on authorisation. So we suggested somebody ought to come forward. Andrea did agree that she'd be happy to do it. And bearing in mind, it needs to be somebody who's happy to do internet banking, basically. It's not a great deal involved in it, but you still need to be able to get access to it, get a password, and I need to do the paperwork to get you set up. So
the proposal is then that Andrea is nominated as our third signature for internet banking. Are you happy to do that, Andrea? Yes? So a seconder for that, please. Bob, all those in favour? Thank you. So Andrea is now our new signatory.
And I'll get the relevant paperwork, for signatures and so forth if I can over the next few weeks. The last piece of this manner thing is the grant application policy, which we don't have and which we should have. I've now drafted that and you've now seen it. Bob had one query on it, which I've corrected, which was just to do with, I think it was to do with the November period of people coming forward for requests and also payments, because we need to be a bit flexible. For example, with the shop this year, we made a grant to the shop outside of those parameters. So so that the policy needs to reflect that. And I think the changes I've made and tweaked do reflect it. So hopefully you're happy with that now.
Okay, so the policy, the recommendation of the audit committee is that we accept this grant policy that has been pre-issued. Can I have a seconder for that, please? Brian, all those in favour?
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's my financial lot.
I'm sorry I hope you don't think that I've rushed through these items, but I'm anxious that our meetings don't drag on, and I think Owen has presented those to us, so the audit committee are more than happy with the recommendations, and thanks very much.
Most of them are formalities, really.
Yeah.
Question making sure we get resolutions to approve them.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, matters for consideration. On the community shop, Bob, do you want to just to outline, well, not probably where we are, but that we are discussing it with various people and we'll report back, really. I think that's all we can say.
Yeah, I think you're right, Chairman. All we were looking for was an authorisation in effect from the council just to allow us to have those conversations and report back. No decisions would be made. It would just be the ability to have a conversation and find out where things are going and bring it back to the council before anything else happened.
Yeah. Can I have a proposal that you will allow us to speak? Andrew, seconded by Andrea. All those in favour? Thank you. That's brilliant. Thank you. David, could you... Oh, sorry, Brian.
Can I ask Owen, am I allowed to mention a strong rumour that I mentioned to you? Or not? Let's leave it.
I would. Brian, it's up to you, mate. It's a totally matter for you, actually. I think whether you feel strong.
Well, no. If it's to do with what we've discussed, Brian, and it's going to give us additional knowledge, I think you should share it.
All right.
But
well, it's
albeit
just
briefly.
a very strong rumour said to me this week that the shop was closing.
That's not my. Their finances are looking good. The accounts are being paid. That's not what we've heard, and certainly the discussions that I've had with people don't bear that out at all.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
I will tell my informant.
Yeah, Bob, you would confirm that, wouldn't you?
Absolutely. From what I've heard, there are positive noises, not negative ones at the moment. So
yeah,
nothing's come to me about any likelihood of a closure.
Okay.
Yes, Andrew.
I think the confusion might have come. There was a mention on one of the medias that they weren't opening Saturday afternoons, and I think that's from what I read, that was down to the fact that they haven't got volunteers for Saturday afternoon. That's all.
Yeah. Okay. Is that okay? Let's press on. David, have you got any update for us on Bodies Lane and the gravel? I know we've been torpedoed by weather, really.
Yeah, it's all weather dependent. Everything's ready to go. So as soon as the ground conditions allow, it'll be done. Jason will be on it. So okay. We'll have to watch the weather, I think.
Thanks, David. Thank you. Dog bin and rubbish bin at the end of the lane opposite the tennis courts. I think there are two things we've got to decide. One, what do we want down there? And Owen's given us some costings. But my question to Bob was, can we site it down there? Should we? I don't know who owns that land, i.e. the little lane down to the gate. Do we need to speak to the owner? I wouldn't have thought we could just put one there unless it's like the end of Bodies Lane.
The field belongs to Berries, doesn't it? But I don't know about the path. Would it be them, I wonder?
David might have some information on that, hopefully.
Yeah,
David?
I think the lane belongs to the Berries as well, because I've done work on it before and cut the hedge back when no one could get down there, and they paid, and that's how it would normally work. If you own the ground, you own the access to it, unless there's anything written, but we could find out for sure.
Is it worth speaking to the Berries?
That's right, I'm quite happy to do it.
Are you?
Yeah.
Could you do that, Brian? Because I think once we know we can. So, I mean, it seems to me that we've got to have a bin that is sited on a new post that's put in, which would be about 139 quid according to Owen's costings. I don't know whether we want to discuss costings now or whether we want to check out with the Berries that they're happy with that before we discuss it further.
If they weren't happy with the lane, can I suggest that they wouldn't mind it being actually in the field a little bit farther in? What do you think? What do you feel?
Bob?
I think if you started going into the field, you'll have more of a problem with getting it collected. I mean, my own view would be if we were able to make the decision tonight subject to the agreement of the landowner, then at least we can get on with it rather than deferring it for another month to come back for another bite.
I'll go and see them tomorrow.
Yeah. Can I propose that we then, subject to agreement with which Brian is going to do, that we purchase a new bin which is attached to a new post according to Owen's schedule. Correct if I'm wrong, please, Owen, that it would be £139.52. New bin, new post.
Yeah, that looks to be right.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the associated collections would be
looking at the £278.72 per annum, I assume, emptied twice a week. That's correct. I mean, what I'll do, I'll do that formally in a written document to you with exactly the cost of the collections.
Okay, so in principle, then, can I propose that, subject to agreement, we go ahead with a bin and new post and an annual collection based on the figures that Owen will confirm to us?
Yeah, it'll be a weekly collection.
That's my proposal. Is there a seconder on that? Yeah, Bob, Nigel, all those in favour? Brilliant, thank you. That's great. Next one, we need, Andrea and Nigel, a new member of the planning committee to replace David Sturgis. Would anybody like to volunteer to join Andrea and Nigel on that committee? Or are we happy to leave it? Andrew, would you like to join?
If we have to have a third and the team wants a third, then I'll join. But if the team's happy to carry on, I'm not fussed either way.
Do we have to have a certain number for a committee, Owen, or are we happy with just
whatever the council deems to be appropriate? Bearing in mind, of course, that sometimes, you know, on all councils, people are away sometimes, and that puts a lot of pressure on. For example, if Nigel were to be away for a while, you know, there's a big pressure on Andrea and vice versa. So having a third person does just try and spread the load a bit. I mean, one person that does come to mind is possibly Cynthia, because I know she was quite keen at one time. So whether she would be prepared, I mean, Andy's offered his service. You know, it's a matter for you, really. I don't.
I think.
No statutory.
Sorry.
There's no statute.
I think it would be good for Andy to get involved with planning as a new member and find out more about it, just as Nigel has got his teeth stuck into it. So, Andy, would you join Andrea and Nigel on the planning committee, please?
Yeah, I'd like to. Yeah.
Okay, Andrea, Nigel, I assume that you will be happy with that to incorporate Andy.
Yeah, of course.
Please.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Thanks, Andy. Kill your speed signage around village. Bob, this is you, isn't it?
But it was something that was raised with the parish council some time ago. I think it was Viv Hares who actually brought it up. They've got these kill your speed signs along the Mark Causeway, which I think people felt were quite good as a way of reminding people of the limit. I was asked to go and get the costs of them, which I've passed on to Owen, and that's why they're back before you as to whether we go ahead and look at having these put down, maybe Burton Row, Brent Street.
They're £18.90 each.
How many signs are we buying, Bob?
There's no set number at the moment. It's up to us to decide where we felt that they were worth doing to have some impact in the village. Basically, if you go along the Mark Causeway, you'll see that they're on some of the repeater signs, just really as a way of just putting it in people's faces again to remind them that there is a limit that they should be driving at.
What do councillors feel about this?
I personally think it's a good idea to have a repeater sign.
Yeah, thanks, Nigel. I think one of the issues is where are they going to go, which will determine how many we buy. Are we doing this in conjunction with the Burton Row Speed group, or is this something that we would do?
To be honest, Chairman, it would be down to us to agree with highways where they go. But I mean, if we started with something like half a dozen to start with, if we wanted to get more later, we can always add more.
Okay, so who will coordinate our work with highways as to where they go?
If you wanted me to, I'm happy to do that, but
I think it needs someone to drive it, Bob. If you could do that, so subject to Bob doing it, I think the proposal is that we purchase in the first instance 6 number kill your speed signs to be placed around the village in places that are agreed with highways in conjunction with Bob. That's a proposal. Is there a seconder for that, please? Nigel, all those in favour? Brilliant, thank you.
I'll deal with that as an order.
Good, we move on. Speed index, Sid, we've given you a brief update where we are. We're just progressing it. We are keeping on the case with this supplier. License changing at Brent House, please circulate it, Owen.
Yes, I circulated that about a week or so ago with all that stuff I sent you. Basically, yes, they just want to know whether we have any comments.
Bob.
I think the primary driver for this is part of what's been going on with COVID. If you have a look at the paperwork in there, part of it is that at the moment they are expanding their area outside of Brent House. And obviously at the moment what tends to happen is people buy their alcohol from within the building and take it out to the tables. They pay for it in the building. At the moment, what they're going to be doing because of COVID to stop people crossing over in the building is they're going to take payments from outside, which technically means they have to be licensed to take those payments outside of the building, which they're currently not. So that's what's driven the change. It's the increase of the outside area and the payment outside. To be honest, I've never had any complaints from people about the operation of that site. So personally, I'd have no problem with it whatsoever, but I don't know whether others have had any other feedback.
Any other comments from anyone? Okay, so the proposal is then that we accept these new licensing changes. That's the proposal. Is there a seconder? Please, Bob, all those in favour? Thank you, that's unanimous.
I'll pass that on to the licensing team.
Yeah. that, I think, and I'm pleased that we've covered quite a lot of things. Are there any newsworthy items that you consider that we should be reporting that would be worth going on the local social network site? Are there any things any of the councillors feel are worthy of? Bob?
A couple of things just sprung to mind. One is we've obviously spent quite a lot of money on the green perimeter fencing on the green, and whether that is worth highlighting. Yeah. And the other was whether Owen wants to pick anything out from the presentation we had tonight relating to the affordable housing.
Yeah. No, I think both of those are very good points, Bob. Yeah. Yeah. Andy?
We were asked if we could highlight the fact that the single bedroom issue on the properties has not been highlighted enough for our own residents. Maybe we should use that as a promotional forum.
Yeah. Good point, Andy. Thank you. So the proposal is then that Owen produces on the green and also on the two developments that we've got in accordance with Duncan Harvey's presentation. We're all happy with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Okay, we've got some matters which are being referred to our meeting, but we'll leave those for the moment. Matters of report, just to wind up. Can you ask Malcolm if he's got any other items at all to bring up for the next meeting, David?
No, he hasn't.
No. How about yourself?
No, I haven't, thank you.
Brian?
Just wondering about this nature report for the website. I can't remember what we decided to do, whether to put it on whole or edit it. Or do you mind either way?
When you say the nature report, are you referring?
Yeah, Jed's report.
Ah.
Or do you want to leave it to me and I'll do it?
Yeah. You have.
Which section would it go under? That's the thing. Any ideas?
I can't remember what the headings were. Yes. Well, if you get it, and then we'll speak with Bob and myself and Owen, and we'll decide where it goes then, shall we?
Fine. Okay. Right.
Okay. Andy, any matters for next meeting?
Climate Emergency Fund and promoting that to locals, see if we can raise some funds for them.
Yeah, it would be interesting to have a sort of chat amongst us as to what possible schemes or something we could apply for. So if I'll have a word with Andy and Owen as well, see whether we can put something together. But if anybody's got any ideas, could they drop them into Owen and then we can consider them? Okay. Anything else, Andy? No? Okay. Andrea?
Nothing from me, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Nigel?
Nothing from me, thank you very much.
Nigel. Bob?
No, nothing from me.
Thank you. And there's nothing from me. So I wish you a good night and thank you very much. I hope we haven't moved the meeting too quickly, but at least we've covered a lot. And I think that's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, David.
That's all right.